Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kathy Wilder, and I have the great privilege of serving as Executive Director up at Camp Stevens. We are your diocesan camp, and you're basically our neighbors. It took me just a little less than an hour to get down here, so come on up anytime, get some pie. It's going to be great. Well, I was saying last night, not this weekend, it's Memorial Day weekend. We want to see you. You don't want me in traffic the whole time. So, I just really want to thank you all for having me today. St. Bart's has become a really important, precious place for me, and I am so grateful just myself, but also Camp Stevens, to be a part of your outreach network and just part of your community. I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. When I was a kid, I loved being outdoors. I loved being in the dirt, smelling the fresh air, feeling the sun on my skin. I especially loved, much to my parents' chagrin, climbing very high up on trees and on rocks. I rode my bike through canyons in Point Loma, where I grew up, and I spent every day I could of the summer in the ocean. You may be thinking, where were your parents? Well, it was the 80s, so nobody supervised kids in those days. Well, it's a little supervision, but not much. And really, 12 broken bones and a lot of stitches later, it was all worth it for me. Because this is where I felt the most whole. I could be myself in a world that wasn't always accepting of who I was. These were places I felt most connected to my purpose, to my people, and to God. This was home. I belonged. This is where I found my peace. So, it's no surprise where I ended up in my life. Today, I've been thinking a lot about Jesus' reference to peace. He says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." It's really got me thinking about what peace feels like in my body, what it feels like in community, and in life, and in a church. How is the peace of Jesus different from the peace of the world, and how do we get there? I think, unfortunately, peace can be framed as kind of anemic, as sort of being weak or giving up. So I decided to dig a bit deeper into the Greek origins of the Greek word. And in this case, peace also means binding together, fastening, making sure all the essential parts are joined, wholeness. I had the great privilege of hearing the Reverend Carter Hayward speak this past fall. She was one of the Philadelphia 11. This was the first group of women priests to be ordained in the Episcopal Church just over 50 years ago now. This ordination was anything but weak, and I think it was also an act of peace. Peace through liberation and community. They couldn't have done it on their own. They had the support of the Church of the Advocate, a long-standing church home to the civil rights movement. They had 3 existing bishops who were willing to break from the pack and perform the ordinations. And when they needed extra security for the event, who did they call? The Black Panthers. This community supported an action that pushed our church forward. And sure, it was hard and painful, especially for the 11. And it led to a more fair and equitable institution of faith. And isn't that what Jesus is demonstrating all the time? He stirs things up in the name of justice and compassion to shine a light on the peace, his peace, that is wholeness, that results in liberation. I recently went to the Episcopal Camps and Conference Center annual conference. All the Episcopal camps in the world get together every year, and we hang out for a week. It's camp for camp directors. It's great. And we hear a lot of great speakers and workshops. And one of the camp directors, one of the speakers was talking about 2 approaches to our work. One was to create a utopia that was separate from the real world, or was basically creating a place apart. In fact, the Camp Stevens tagline used to be "a peaceful place apart." And the other approach was embracing a microcosm in which people could bring their whole selves and experiences with them to our spaces. And many of us, when we got into this work, would gravitate towards, our initial feelings were to gravitate towards utopia. We wanted to create a so-called safe space where the woes of the world were held at bay. But we've learned that that's not the way. That the way forward is to go through and to accept that we are just a part of the world, and the way that we shape our values and our approach and the way that our community comes together, that is what makes us different. But we cannot hold the world out. We cannot avoid the pathway to peace. Really, there's not a true utopia without first addressing the overwhelming and unmanageable and sometimes unforeseeable circumstances of real life. We recently adopted a new vision statement at camp, which is Camp Stevens envisions a world of wholehearted belonging. Wholehearted belonging means being completely devoted, determined, or enthusiastic. Belonging means feeling fully seen and accepted and celebrated. Wholehearted belonging can be practiced through vulnerability, through compassion, through presence and courageousness. I think that this is the way people would behave in a beloved community. I'm not sure if you've heard that term before. It was coined by Josiah Royce in the 30s, and it's been carried through many versions of the civil rights movement, and today is embraced by our own Episcopal Church as the movement is becoming beloved community, and it is the approach to our racial reconciliation process. Both wholehearted belonging and beloved community are super aspirational ideas. It's not where we are now, we know that, and it is where we want to go. I think in order to get there, we have to start living into those behaviors, and to start envisioning what we want, we have to be that thing today as much as we possibly can. But how do we do it? How do we find peace in a broken world? How do we start the process? Since we've adopted this new vision statement, I've been reading everything I can about belonging. So the last book I read was called Cherish Belonging by Father Greg Boyle, who's the founder of Homeboy Industries, an author and a speaker. And they do amazing work. They work with formerly incarcerated people and former gang members, and they've just really, they do incredible stuff. I highly recommend you check it out. Anyway, in his book, he's talking about God's love, and he creates this sort of image. And he says to us, he says in the book, "In the face of our adoring God, we are like fish in the ocean, looking for the ocean. And God is forever screaming at us, 'You are in the ocean.'" God's love is the ocean, surrounding us and holding us and nourishing us and strengthening us for whatever comes our way. And all we have to do to access this love is to look around, open our gills, breathe it all in, and see that we are immersed in the unconditional, expansive, and wildly beautiful love of God. And with this love and connection, we can do anything. For me, most days I feel like I'm just kind of trying to learn how to swim every single day. But I think what we can do is, as we embark on this impossible journey, this seemingly impossible journey, I have a few thoughts about some initial roadmap points to look at. When I saw Reverend Hayward talk, she mentioned the phrase revolutionary patience. And in the room, folks, there was like an audible, of exasperation. And, she really made a great point in that this work is not just for us. This is about the full scope of the work, way beyond our years, way beyond what we may see in our generation. But that patience requires us to take the steps each day. The second is, if you've heard me speak before, you probably heard me talk about Valerie Kaur, who's an amazing author and activist. And also, this is her phrase, but also you see this idea through so many faith traditions historically and today, is to see no stranger. This can be so hard. People can be frustrating and feel out of reach, especially in a time of great divide. But we must keep listening. We ask our campers to do this. What is it like to really listen? All right, we ask kids to really listen to their friends. We ask them to sit and listen, and then we ask them to speak their truths. If we can ask this of our kids, we certainly, I'm a big proponent of, if I ask this of a child, I can ask this of myself. And finally, is to embrace bravery. And I think bravery is an act of peace. And you at St. Bart's are doing that through your food pantry, walking in Pride Parade, supporting veterans and active duty military members, finding resources for the unhoused, standing in solidarity with refugees and immigrants. This is a common ground in which people can come together. This is peace. And bravery is the work of Jesus, and therefore the work of us, the work of our church, because bravery creates wholeness. And this is my hope for the Episcopal Church in general and its movement. It's not just the work of inspirational leaders like Reverend Hayward or the Bishop Miriam Buddy, or even a Mother Nina. This is all of our work. We must all do it together. The fact is, this is our church and our country. These are our neighbors, and this is our planet. These are our children and our elders. And as poet June Jordan stated to the UN in 1978, we are the ones we have been waiting for. And we can save lives, enliven souls, and step up to the sacred call for justice and dignity for every human being. And our loving God believes in us, even when the world is harsh and peace feels out of reach. We can look to the left and right and inside of ourselves to find belonging and to find wholeness. So as I close today, I want to read this part of the gospel again to send you on your way. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Grace and peace to you all.